Hey folks, this is Tiffany from Rangemaster, and I am excited because I am recording another episode of TACCon's Meet the Trainers with a new addition to the TACCon lineup, Miss Luann Hamblin. I am so glad that you accepted Tom's invitation to join the TACCon cadre. It is quite the honor to have you with the lineup. And so for folks who aren't familiar with all the great work that you're doing in the training community, please introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Sure. First of all, when the invitation came, I was sort of taken off guard. And then, what are you going to say? No? Can't make it? I mean, it's legendary. So
I'm sorry, this is rude, but I have to interrupt you there and pay a compliment because I must say that's one of the reasons why I'm so glad that you're here. And one of the things that makes you and a lot of others stand out to Tom. I'm going to editorialize a little bit here, so I apologize for the soapbox, but ego is a cancer in the training community. And so the fact that you were taken aback by getting an invitation to TACCon in spite of your ridiculous resume just tells me that you've got no ego in the game, which means you absolutely belong at TACCon. So thank you for that. Now, appreciate you allowing me to interrupt real quick, but I'll pass the mic back to you to finish introducing yourself.
Well, I retired out of law enforcement after serving 22 years, and I was fortunate along the way to be involved with a lot of training. I was recruited right out of the academy to come back and teach firearms. So after I finally found my way through firearms instructor class, I came back and began my teaching career. And I've been doing that now for, it's going on 29 years. We started my company in 1999. There was a gap that needed to be filled with police cycling and firearms specific to the police cyclist. And so that sort of evolved. And I was recruited by H&K. And for those of your listeners that don't have gray hair, they probably have no idea what the International Training Division was all about. And that's fine. But I worked there as an adjunct for 7 years and had was very fortunate to be trained and mentored by some of the best men in the country at that time at HK. And we've just through ILFE and ILETA and some of the other law enforcement training organizations, I've kind of grown. A Girl and a Gun has taken me into a whole different realm in terms of training. It has certainly stretched my muscle. I think I've become better as a result of being exposed to a different end user and the leadership there at that organization as well. So I've trained in a number of psychomotor skill areas, and I'm still doing it. So after 29 years, I'm blessed to still be able to contribute.
Amazing. And it's in all the information and links are in the app, everybody. But Luann, tell us the name of your company.
It's Luca Tactical Training.
Awesome. So if you're not familiar, definitely check it out. But you are fortunate to get a sneak peek at Luann's training at TACCon. She's teaching not one, but 2 classes this year, which is amazing. We're lucky. Let's start out with responding to the active killer. That's a live fire class on Friday afternoon. And again, I have to thank you publicly, Luann, because I know you're going to be coming off the road from teaching in a whole different state and lugging a bunch of equipment to TACCon to make this class work. I know that's a tall ask, and we really appreciate you going above and beyond to bring us this very special class. Tell us about responding to active killers.
Sure. This class has evolved over the years. We started addressing these types of events in the late 90s. In 1994, there was a police cyclist involved shooting involving an active killer in Spokane, Washington at the airfield, Spokane, Washington at the air base there. And we started really taking a hard look at what happens to that sort of response absent a shoulder mounted piece of equipment. And so that evolved into school resource officers and detectives, probation and parole. and what that challenge looks like when you're reaching out past that 25-yard magical distance that so many places tend to stop their training at those distances. So not just that, but adding chaos and complexity to that environment. Everyone knows that it's important to know your target backstop and beyond, but the front stop is also something that you have to take into consideration when you're dealing with crowds and more than just two people on the playing field, so to speak.
Excellent. Excellent. So I'm going to go out on a limb and throw out there that this is probably not a well-suited class for brand spanking new beginners. But as I'm assuming, Luann, and you correct me if I'm wrong, this is your class, but probably need to have pretty solid gun handling and safety skills. Is that fair?
That'd be fair to say. Yeah, it's not definitely not for the beginning shooter. You're going to get challenged in this class. If the shooters show up and they want to kick their own ass, then there's an opportunity for them to do that as well. But we are shooting on a rifle range, which I believe is 100 yards. And we're going to reach out as far as we possibly can while still maintaining a training value. So we might introduce a couple of challenging drills that might look like a competition, for example, for cash and prizes, of course.
Of course.
But that might be fun. It just depends on who shows up. We're going to have a little bit of academic freedom. I've got 4 hours to do the basic drills, but it's sort of a snapshot of the 2-day class that we offer.
Awesome. Excellent. I can't wait. That's going to be amazing. But wait, there's more. You're also teaching a classroom block called Understanding and Teaching Female Shooters. That one is Saturday morning at 8 a.m. in classroom 2. What can we expect in that class?
Well, we started gearing some training towards the female shooter and operator back at H&K. And my boss at the time, John Meyer, who's also the owner and president of Team One Network, approached myself and Kathy Vonk, who were the only 2 females that stayed at H&K for that period of time, and suggested that he wanted to offer something to women only. And so we delivered our first class in '98 and found that it was significantly different than any other class that Kathy and I or anyone else had ever attended, much less delivered. And we had a lot of lessons that we learned out of that experience and began doing all female only classes. And at the time, there really wasn't a lot of people that were doing that in law enforcement. And so we took a lot of the lessons that we learned along the way as both practitioners and as instructors. And from what I understand, we have an approach that's different, that's appealing. And I'd like to share some of that stuff with the instructors at TACCON, because we feel that we might be able to provide them with some shortcuts and not have to spend 30 years before they figure out what the formula might be, or the personality, or the communication style, or what have you, for them to be a little bit more successful with their female shooters.
Wonderful. We appreciate you sharing that expertise and giving us a little bit of a shortcut to the secret sauce. Just want to clarify one thing: understanding and teaching the female shooter. That's not a class for females only, right? Would you encourage males to attend as well?
Typically, men are the primary audience, regardless if it's a law enforcement class or non-law enforcement. And so I would recommend anyone who is interested in learning or is curious about what might be different, and just the stuff that we've experienced over the years. It's very open and candid and an honest approach to just the things that we've seen. And I imagine that there's going to be a lot of questions that I'm going to do my very best to answer. And if not, I have 10 other instructors that I could probably at some point bounce that off of. But I think the goal is to just sort of get some questions answered that they might be bringing to the party. And I know I won't be the only person that's there, and I'm very open-minded about using the talent that's in the room, as long as the learning outcome is where it needs to be. That's the biggest thing.
Excellent. Well, I love it. And like I said before, I I know that I speak for the entire Rangemaster family when I say welcome to the team, and we are excited and consider ourselves lucky to have you, and I cannot wait to see you in Dallas. Thanks so much, Luann Hamblin of Luca Tactical. We will see you in March.
Thank you. Super excited.